Okay. The concept behind the plaza was described as having precedence. What are the examples of traffic islands as credible urban space? Right, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Do you want me to take that mic or should I just?
You want to? It's up to you.
I'll just do it. It's a good question. It's definitely something that's a concern. The ones that we thought of right away was a brand new one that just got put in on 9th Avenue between 14th and 15th Street, which is a traffic island. It's much smaller than this. It has cafe seating. It has some planters. It was finished about a year ago. It is unbelievably successful. People sit there from morning until night, enjoying themselves, meeting people. They even have samba classes on this tiny little traffic island every Thursday night. That's one. Another thing that we thought of is larger spaces that are right next to two large roads. There's another concern of ours. And when you think of Union Square, which is obviously a bigger space than what we have, but it's on 14th Street and Broadway, which would be two similarly trafficked roads, there are ways to make great public space that are surrounded by traffic. Is this a bucolic park? No, not at all. It's a plaza, it's urban, and it has a lot of activity on it. But the idea was to make something that was engaging and that people felt really comfortable in coming to, that was safe and bright and open.
So next is a two-part question. Why no trees or shade? That's part one. And part two, why not some sound buffering the traffic?
We looked at the idea of making just a field of trees. So that was the very, very first idea that we had. There's an incredible amount of infrastructure, right, that already exists with the transit center and the tunnels and sewers and everything else that it's actually impossible to put the plant walls. Wherever we were able to get enough soil and enough root space to plant them on the site, we put them in. I think that the idea of we thought about the idea of sound buffering materials, but there was the trade-off in the ability to look at the plaza and make it safe versus something that was big and buffered the sound and created a separation between where people were driving and walking and sitting on the plaza. So I think the idea was that we wanted to make sure it felt open, we wanted to make sure it didn't feel like a private space, we wanted to make sure it felt public, and then we have the one zone where it's a little bit more buffered out at the tip, and that place is where we were able to put some of the plantings and combine it with the transit entrance itself.
How will the security infrastructure affect pedestrian movement?
Bollards?
The bollards?
Do you mean the bollards?
Yeah, the bollards and the security infrastructure plan there.
I think the only
bollards.
It's only bollards is the only thing, and they're spaced as they are around many other public buildings in New York, and we don't.
Those are the actual bollards.
And
They're on the
right.
plan.
Right, those are the bollards. They're on the plan, and they're a kind of standard system.
And the Atlantic Terminal Station, giant boulders in front of the station.
We are not making that mistake. These are very simple, standard bollards that have been approved by the security working group in the city and counterterrorism. We're not putting big granite sort of off of that.
When will Building 1 office tower be built? And then does the agreement allow for 3 buildings to be built in the first phase without the office tower?
Yes. So, Forestry Ratner requires to build all 3 residential towers in phase 1. Otherwise, they will incur penalties. They're also required to build the urban room, and they will build the tower on top of the urban room once they have secured the tenants.
Have there been any security approvals for this space? And what does the security approval process look like so that we can have confirmation this will be a publicly accessible plaza 24/7?
As we said before, there is a process taking place. The city has several agencies that are involved in it. One of them is the Department of Transportation, which, as you know, is responsible for pedestrian vehicular movement, so they want to make sure that everybody can use the sidewalks and access the plaza. The other is counterterrorism, which determines where the bollards go, and how to secure the perimeter. That design process is managed through City Hall, and we've had many, many meetings with them over the years, but this security plan is, what you see here are the bollards are 5-foot center, where they are the secure perimeter, and then there is some furniture that is on the sidewalk, which are the benches, which was required by the Transit Authority because of the load issue that on the site constraint slides in the beginning of Gregg's presentation.
Where's the bike facility?
The bike facility is supposed to be in Building 3 in an interim condition before we build Building 3. We will be having it on the B3 site, Plaza right there, along 6th Avenue and D.
Will there actually be a facility built, or will it just be like a rack? Okay. Next question. It is difficult to evaluate the plaza without knowing locations of arena entrances and exits. Where will these be located?
This one?
Beginning slide?
This is the first slide.
Okay, well, where's the one that shows all the entrances? Does it show it?
Sort of.
So see where
Yes.
the red arrows are entries, except for that one retailer.
That's a detail.
But every other one of those is an arena entry.
So the primary entry is off the plaza, but then there are secondary entries on Flatbush and Atlantic.
There are 2 entries on Atlantic, the primary one on the plaza, and then a 3rd entry to the arena on Dean Street. And the loading dock is oriented, it's on Dean near 6th Avenue.
What are the guidelines, i.e. frequency, time of day, for the public and private events on the plaza?
As Gregg said, the programming part, these are just ideas, so we have to sort of figure that out. And we want it to work for the community. There are events, about 235 events a year. Some of them happen multiple events in one day, and some of them are just at night. And we have to look, but there's plenty of opportunity for community use of the plaza in daylight hours and evening hours. So I think it's one of those challenges that will be fun to solve as we identify what people are interested in, and we put together a program with the community.
Can you describe the footprint of the future tower on the plaza?
The B1 office building will go in partially on the tip, and will set back partially over the arena in terms of its bulk when it goes up. The core of the office building could be right sort of in the middle of the Oculus. It could be a sky lobby. The urban room is required to be built there, and so the tip is essentially, by design guidelines, a public space anyway. So this plaza, which is 24/7 public space, in the future when B1 is built, the office tower, there will be an office lobby in the tower, possibly a sky lobby. But the space itself, the plaza space, will still be publicly accessible 24/7. And will have similar uses. It will still have the transit, it will have retail, it'll have all those things, but it will be glass.
Below the plaza, does the transit center also have a large mezzanine area?
The transit design, yes, it has a very generous area. It was sized by transit technical people in terms of the volumes that will be going through it, in terms of arena traffic. So they have very technical formulas of person lanes for travel. They take into account how wide a turnstile is and how many they need. I think there are over 12 turnstiles. I'm not quite sure, but we can get back to you on the details. There's a ramp down to the BMT and a ramp down to the 2, 3, 4, and 5 trains that connect to the existing station, and then access all the other subway lines through the station.